My friends, we have lighted the second candle in the wreath, signifying the second Sunday of the season of Advent. In the liturgy of the Word, we hear this for the first time, these very strong words of John the Baptist as he stepped out in the desert, proclaiming, "Prepare the way of the Lord. Make straight his paths. All valleys should be filled, mountains and hills should be laid low. Everything should be right and in order. Everything should be in harmony." So by way of outline for our homily today, we will speak a little bit about Advent, the meaning of the season, as it opens the new year in the calendar of the church. What is the meaning of Advent? What's the meaning of this simple liturgical environment and the colors? And then we will concretize the message of Advent in the words of John. What is the meaning of those "prepare the way of the Lord"? And then, once we get the theme of those words, we will apply it to concrete life, to our everyday living. We will address a very important phenomenon in the modern times, our time, that is responsible for all the pains and the illnesses that we are all suffering. This is a phenomenon of the modern period that has reached epidemic level. It is the cause of all our diseases, from cardiovascular diseases to high blood pressure to cancer, Alzheimer's, and even autism. And all the things the pains that we're suffering, we will address this because, of all the seasons of Advent, of the year, Advent really hits, it really talks about life. And the message here is very relevant to us. Hopefully, we can do something, about this problem that we are all suffering based on the message of John, making everything right, making everything in order, everything should be in harmony. And hopefully by the end of this homily, we can pick up something that we can truly apply and truly bring with us and live, so that when, to make a good Advent preparation, so that when Jesus comes at Christmas, we will experience peace. That is the message of Christmas. Peace and joy, Jesus as the light. So we go to the season. What is Advent? Advent is really about God. It's about His person. If you are looking for a word, according to St. John Paul the Great, to describe the person of God is the word loyalty. God is a faithful God. And His fidelity is proven in the history of salvation. God renewing His loyalty all the time. If you look at the Bible, from the beginnings of the pages of Genesis up to the end, starting with the second chapter of Genesis, when Adam and Eve committed sin, immediately God, when He talked to the serpent, promised salvation, redemption, and He planned this. 12th chapter of Genesis begins with the story of Abraham, that God called from Ur to cross the desert, bring his family, so He can begin with working out this promise of salvation, the fidelity of God. And then, through the years, 14 generations, it seems that everything has been forgotten already, and the Hebrews are in Egypt. God again appeared to Moses in Midian, in the burning bush, telling Moses, "Go back to Egypt and deliver my people from Pharaoh." God, faithful God, never forget His promise. And then, 14 generations, 1,000 years BC, with David. God again promised David, "Your family will be great, Israel will rise as the most powerful and richest empire in the world." David and Solomon, 14 generations after Moses. And then, again, through the years, Israel weakened and invaded by the Babylonians with Nebuchadnezzar. People were all crying and weeping by the waters of Babylon. We wept. We hanged our harps because we are slaves. God again promised salvation. Defeated Nebuchadnezzar with Cyrus the Great of Persia, who delivered the people and brought them back to Israel. God never forget His promise, a faithful God. 14 generations after that, Jesus is born as the fulfillment of that promise. So it's about a faithful God making a promise to us now, as He did in generations past. God in the past, now, and forever, promising us salvation will come to you. All kinds of things that you suffer now will not be forever. I will lift you up and bring you light. That is the meaning of Advent. God making a promise. What is our response? Our response is we lie low. You know, we in the spirit of penance and prayer. That's the meaning of the color of indigo, but there's a flickering light there. That is the expectation, waiting in patience, because God will fulfill His promise. Now, this waiting is very important because we have a problem with this, especially Americans. Americans don't like to wait, right? When they answer the phone, say, "Could you please hold?" We feel offended. You know, no, I cannot hold. You know, that's everything is instant, but no, it doesn't happen that way. We wait patiently. That's the spirit of the season of Advent. That is why we have no flowers. We have the simple spirit of expectation. We are waiting in vigil because we believe that the faithful God will fulfill His promise. That is the season in few words. Okay? Now, what is the meaning of the words of John? How do we wait? How do we wait? John is telling us, prepare the way of the Lord. Put everything in order. Make everything right. Everything should be in harmony in yourself, your relationships, your life, your lifestyle should be moderate. You know, you should use your brain. You should be careful in behaving, in doing things. And what is the best way to do that if we apply? We will address this issue that the world, all of us are suffering, causing all our pains, all our illnesses. What's the bottom line of this? It's a phenomenon of the modern period. And I'm talking about stress. You believe me? Stress. You know what stress is? Stress is our reaction to pressure. Pressure. We experience pressures in our lives from everything. There are 4 levels of stress, 4 kinds of stress. When we have stress causes friction because there is pressure, friction. And when there is friction, there is inflammation. Inflammation, especially the body, is affected when it experiences stress. With inflammation, breaks down immune system. When the immune system breaks down, it opens the door to all kinds of bacterial and viral infections. And that explains all kinds of diseases that we're all suffering. So let's focus on this stress. There are 4 levels. We have to address this. And hopefully based on the theme of Advent, you know, when St. John the Baptist, make everything right, everything in order and in harmony. Hopefully we can learn something that we can bring home so we will be freed, relieved from the stress, all kinds of stress that we experience every day. So what's number one? Physical stress. Muscular, nerval, physical stress that is the result of overdoing physical activity. Almost every day, especially in our demographics, it's very important. Take note of this. People come and say, "Father, I fell when I was playing golf." And I always answer, "And with your spirit." You know, you have to be careful. At your age, you cannot overdo physical activity. You have to be very careful because the body is limited, and you have to, otherwise you will have a lot of inflammation. You know, the stress in the body. So modulate, regulate physical activity. There are things that you can do that you can lighter, and still good, but you cannot overdo it. It is a phenomenon of the busy modern period. You know, people are always running after something, rushing something, rushing to be rushed again and rushing again. There's no stop. There is no, and people are affected physically with this. So be careful with the physical stress that you experience. Second, we have also a thing called chemical. There's such a thing, chemical stress, what we put into the body. You know, if we are not careful, you know, sick people need medication, whatever it is that will cure our illness. But healthy people do not need chemicals, because these chemicals tamper with physiology, functions of the body, and if they are foreign to the body, you will have a problem here. You will have issues with the functions of the body will be affected. You know, these chemicals are foreign, they will create a lot of pain. And because they are tampering with the natural order, these chemicals in over-medication and food that we are not careful are causing a lot of problems. The side effects of this, you know, it's amazing, the modern period, these inventions of chemicals injected to the body, very dangerous and painful. Third, there's such a thing as emotional stress. That is very serious also. There are 11 emotions. Only 5 are pleasant. The rest are not. You know, things like anger, hatred, you know, unforgiveness, worry, guilt. These are very painful. The first thing, emotions are in the brain. And once we entertain them, the first thing affected is the blood pressure. You can feel the heat in your neck and then perspiration in your forehead when you're mad. And then you prolong that. That's torture. You know, it's affecting your entire system. And so people say, well, we remember our parents who told us, never ever make a decision based on emotions. Because if you base your decisions on emotions, you already lost. You should not be controlled by emotions. You should control them, because they can be very painful and stressful, and it will affect you. What is the best antidote and remedy to controlling, managing emotions? Laughter, sense of humor. Catholics don't laugh a lot, right? Laughter, sense of humor. Albert Einstein said that. Have fun, you know, kind of look at life in the spirit of fun. If it is not fun, why do it? Okay? And then, tears. It's okay to cry, even for men. Men do not cry a lot, right? I gave a retreat once, and Notice the men are crying more than the women. You know, tears are okay. They relieve us from pressure and from when you are sad and sorrowful. Crying is okay. It's not kind of weak. You're really relieving your stress. So other things they say to remedy some kind of all of the stress is a nice rest. A good sleep is very healthy, you know, because it has the body has a chance to repair itself. They also say deep breathing. This is something you should not forget. You have to breathe. Because if you stop breathing, you'll turn blue and drop dead, you know. So this is something that we take for granted. It lowers blood pressure. It puts us to rest. Breathing. And then they even say, these are non-Catholic people and even experts who say, meditation. Sit down in a quiet place, feel the cool air and breathe and think of beautiful things, positive things, not resentment, not the past, don't forget that. But meditation, focus the mind on some beautiful, the inner world. There's a lot of wealth that we can discover through silence and meditation. The inner world, not just the outside. Inner world, there's a lot inside that's beautiful and good. And then they say prayer. Can you imagine? These are non-Catholic people, they're not even Christians. Prayer, whatever form, connect with someone. Feel a sense of belonging, that you belong to someone, that you are loved. You're not alone. Even in your darkest moments, the ones that love you is with you. This is beautiful to realize. That's what I tell people when I'm called to give anointing to people who are dying. In your darkest moment, the one who loves you most is with you now. And immediately you can see the change, you know, in their faces, which is true. You know, we are God's babies. And in our darkest moments of pain, God, our parent, embraces us. That relieves us from the emotional sense of loneliness and being alone, you know. And finally, of course, we have spiritual stress. Spiritual stress simply caused by sin. Every time we do something wrong, especially when we tell a lie, or cheat somebody, or hurt somebody, we feel guilty. And there are contradicting forces inside us that even the machines can detect it. That is the principle behind lie detector. When you lie, one thing what you say, another thing in your mind, there are contradicting forces there that the machines are erratic and they will know you're lying. Spiritual stress caused by sin, by darkness, by a contradictory guilt that tosses us in our bed and we cannot rest, can be remedied by the sacrament. Advent penance service, reconciliation, when we embrace Jesus as light, who is the only one who can shatter the darkness on the soul. So hopefully, with the words of John, prepare the way of the Lord. Make His path straight. Focus on addressing this epidemic that we experience. Hopefully, we can prevent and relieve ourselves of these forces that threaten our bodies, our emotions, and our soul, so that when Jesus comes at Christmas, we experience light, joy, and peace.